Hello, 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 and thank you everybody once again for tuning into another episode of About My Father's Business Thursday, where I like to interview Christian business owners, ministers, coaches, authors, anything Christian, just to not only give these business owners some exposure, but also to have people to understand the services that are available to them as Christians. Because a lot of times we don't even, a lot of times people don't necessarily advertise that they have a Christian business owner. Sometimes they do this, sometimes they don't. But I do know people who like to go to Christian business owners as Christians themselves if they know about them. And so it's always good to kind of know who you're dealing with. I even know some people who are not Christian that like to go to Christian business owners because they kind of just like the overall experiences that they usually get from Christian business owners. And so this is why I created this platform, to help business owners get exposure and to help customers find business owners. So, my special guest for today is Dr. Patrick Thompson, and we are going to be discussing his practice. And so, this is a little bit different. Like, I've had people on here talk about health and things like that before. I had a nurse on here, I have health coaches on here, but this man is an actual doctor, and so I'm really excited to have his perspective on the conversation that we will be having, which will revolve around health and faith. And so before we go ahead and get started to talk about what he does, I would like for you, Dr. Patrick, to go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Sage, thank you so much for having me on here. I'm super humbled and excited to share with you all this morning. So, as Sage already said, my name is Dr. Patrick Thompson. I'm a naturopathic physician, and I'm also an ordained pastor. You can see in the background here, I'm a co-pastor of this church here with my father. And, so my days kind of bleed over, looking like faith, looking like health, but to me, it's all one in the get-go. So, so I have a practice, which is based physically in New Orleans, Louisiana right now. But it's what I like to call a concierge practice, which basically means that I go wherever I'm needed. If you've ever seen the show Royal Pains, I don't know if anybody ever seen that. It's kind of like that guy, he doesn't have an office per se, but his office is wherever he is. So if you ask me if I'm in the office, yes, at all times I'm in the office.
yeah, wow.
But I should say, many would want to know, well, what is naturopathic medicine? Basically, it's basically a primary care medicine, but it's based on natural therapeutics. So that's my training, mostly in primary care, preventative medicines. I specialize in chronic illnesses like lupus, high blood pressure, things of that nature. But I also do general wellness and weight loss as well. Can see anyone of any age. And so when I say my practice talks about natural therapeutics, I mean stuff like botanical medicines, physical medicine like chiropractors, nutrition as a modality of healing, hydrotherapy, traditional Chinese medicine like acupuncture and cupping and things of nature, and also some minor surgery. So my appointments are virtual and in person, so it depends on what you need. And I have what I like to call my assurance plans instead of using insurance. I'm mostly cash based, but I offer what's called an assurance plan. There's different levels of it where you can pay a certain amount every month and have certain access to the services that I provide.
Wow,
that's
nice.
kind of where I am.
Yeah, and your business is called Whole Kingdom Wellness.
That's right.
Now, what stands out to me a lot, like with your business, is as I'm getting older, of course, you become more aware of kind of health stuff. When you're young, you don't even think about this stuff at all. And then as you get older, you start having issues. Your friends start having issues. Your parents start having issues, and so you become more aware of this information and care that's needed. And one thing that I've learned as I'm getting older and becoming more aware is that traditional medicine only goes so far. I'm seeing a lot of people gravitating more towards natural medicines, natural remedies, and things like that, because not only is traditional medicine or, prescriptions and things like that can be very, very expensive, they usually come with like a lot of side effects. and sometimes they're not very effective to kind of really help you see some improvement in your situation. And so I've seen a lot of people gravitate towards natural medicines, natural remedies, natural solutions. And so I really like that you are a doctor, but you're moving in that direction, you using that or bringing that into your practice as well, because it's very easy to see those things as something different. So when you go
Mhm.
to a regular doctor, you think, he's just going to prescribe you prescriptions and tell you this, tell you
Yeah.
that. But to have a professional doctor, or somebody's educated in the field, but also combining that with the understanding of natural medicine and things like
Mhm.
that, to me, it's a little bit more comforting. For
Mhm.
me, because sometimes you come across people who have some idea of natural medicines, but that doesn't necessarily mean they understand, a lot about the human body and, things like that. And it might be some
Yeah.
crackpot ideas. So to combine both of those things, it gives me like a lot of assurance that you know what you're talking about, like,
Right.
your stuff. So
Right. 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 Yeah. Yeah. So no, no. I mean, you're spot on, Sage. You are spot on. I mean, we got a wellness. We have wellness. People are spending money on wellness in record numbers. We got
yeah.
a couple $1 billion a year people are spending on wellness. So, and it's definitely something that what I like to call a more emerging field right now.
Mm.
And it is something I think everybody needs, and they might not even realize they do right now.
Mm.
Um, so there's several things I can say as a response to what you're saying, because I think
Mm.
people do need it, and I think that we need to understand sort of the differences and what makes the different schools of medicine what they are, right? So
Mm.
first I would say I generally call, let's say, our conventional medicine here. I usually use the term conventional for that, and what I do is
Okay.
more traditional. I call myself that, as opposed to alternative or complementary, as what they try to say, trying to put you
Okay.
in, they try to put you in that box because
Yeah.
we're about breaking boxes, right, right, right.
Right.
Right. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Absolutely.
So they try to put us in that box. But the reality is what I do was around before Western medicine,
Mm.
much of it. So I like to call that conventional, and what we do is more traditional.
Yeah.
In that
Yeah.
in that sense, So one thing that I like to say is, you know, um, I'm not somebody who's anti-conventional completely. I'm not anti-conventional because I don't want nobody to come away, but you should just not ever go to no conventional doctor. No, no, So you have to understand that we have different strengths. I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that conventional medicine is really strong in what we call acute medicine. Hey, you're in an accident, God forbid, and you lacerate your liver. Don't come to me.
Yeah.
Listen, now I know how to bring your fever down if I need to. Listen, I can even suture you up.
Right. Right.
But in terms of putting the blood vessels together and all that, that ain't my thing.
Right.
I'm just gonna tell you now. If you got some hepatitis, some things going on with your liver that's chronic, come holler at me.
Exactly.
Okay,
Okay.
because I would say traditional medicine, where the strength is certainly is by far chronic illnesses.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and so, with that being said, I kind of see myself as more integrationist.
Okay.
I think we should. I think they both offer good things, but we have different strengths.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if anybody has any chronic, so I always tell everybody you need a naturopathic physician because you do, and all of us got something chronic.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And something that
Especially.
we can find some delay, some relief from rather. And we are hands down, who you want to see for chronic illness for sure, and for
Okay.
general wellness.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Wow. I'm glad you clarified that, because that's good. You taught me something. So anyway, before we get into your practice, I want people to have a little bit of a sense about who you are. So can you talk a little bit about who you are, your background, how you got into this field in the first place, especially as a Black man, because you don't see too many Black doctors doing what you do.
Oh man, who you telling? I,
Yeah.
I met a colleague of mine a couple of weeks ago in Washington D.C. She was so excited to see me, man. Oh man, hadn't seen she didn't know any Black males in the profession. She didn't know any, so she was excited. But let me just say, I've always kind of had interest in faith and health for a long time. I saw myself doing some things like this in dreams when I was a kid, really.
Okay. Wow.
But with that being said, I went to undergrad. I attended Morehouse. You know, I was just kind of thinking, okay, I want to do medicine. I was, and I kind of was thinking about that traditional route. I'm going to go major in biology. I'm going to take the MCAT. I'm going to go to conventional medical school. Da 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 da. But along the way, I got gripped up in ministry, and so I ended up instead of going out of college, I went to seminary instead of medical school.
Oh,
I went to seminary a couple of times and was doing full-time ministry for some time. But even during that time, I still kind of had this tug to go to do something with medicine that was related to healing, and I wasn't quite sure. But when I discovered naturopathic medicine, I knew that was what I was supposed to do.
Okay.
Because of its connection to nature, and I thought it was just perfect for what I was looking to do. So I ended up, going to medical school. At the age of 31, I decided to just, I was doing full-time ministry. I was preaching on Sundays. I was playing the organ on Sundays. And then I decided to go to medical school. And
wow.
From that.
Wow.
And so, I ended up going to naturopathic medical school out in Tempe, Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And so from then on, it's been a journey on becoming that healer, right? I don't just see myself as a pastor or preacher. I don't just see myself as a physician. I see myself as a healer.
Right. Wow.
And so it's been what I would like to say a non-linear path. I'll just say it. But what I've learned is that sometimes people who follow non-linear paths end up doing some very extraordinary things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
And quite frankly, they end up with jobs that people got to make up titles for. If you notice, I call myself a chief healing officer. I ain't know what else to call myself, so I just said healing. We just do that.
Wow, so this is really interesting. So I guess this can really help us segue into like the whole premise of your practices, the intersection between faith in health, because you started out in the ministry and you're pastoring a church, and I'm pretty sure you've had some encounters with people healings and people needing to be healed and people becoming healed, maybe some people not becoming healed, and then all of a sudden you pivot into the more professional area of healing, and now you're bringing those two things together in your practice. So can you talk a little bit about your faith and health and how they go together?
Yeah, so one of the challenges, even doing what I'm doing, is to get people on board with it, because it's not the traditional ways of looking at church, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
And there are some trends that I have had to buck because of it, that have been traditional things, and particularly in the Black church, particularly which I pastor in. But so what that looks like is, preaching as I would, but also making sure that part of my preaching and my ministry has to do with physical health, right? So even in my messages, I have themes there that talk about how our faith is with our health. For instance, at our church, we don't do like fried chicken dinners and fried fish dinners and stuff. We have like some soup and some salad.
Oh wow!
And some fruit instead of a bunch of cakes and stuff. So training people to think about that, offering opportunities to learn how to cook healthier. We're in the process of planting a community garden. It's also part of our push towards health. Recently, we just, and this is just offering examples. I mean, recently we just had organization that is by several medical students at Tulane University and some other physicians that came over, and we had a workshop in our church that had to do with prostate health. So we brought some people so people can understand, what to, how to follow those interventions and what to look out for, when to get checked. You're hearing it from people who do this every day. And what I was able to bring into there is, okay, how do we start preventing this, and introduce some nutrition aspects of, okay, so what are some vitamins and what are some herbs that we can take that will be preventative for us What kind of diet should we eat so that we can be preventative, right? And so the premise is how we treat our bodies is a reflection of how a reflection of our spiritual relationship or our relationship to God. Right. So you look at for instance, the 3rd John passage talking about I brethren, I wish that your health would prosper even as your soul prospers.
Yes.
Right? So with that's showing us that there's a link there. So if you're calling yourself a strong Christian, but you're not, if you're lacking in some of your physical habits, then we need to examine, are you really serious about your faith?
Wow.
Because if your faith is telling you that you ought to take care of your temple, that your health ought to be prosperous, just as you are practicing your spiritual practice, you need to be practicing your spiritual health, your physical health as well.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
And so in sense, if you're not if you calling yourself a Christian, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. You ready? If you calling yourself a Christian and you're not taking care of your body, trying to, you are sinning.
Whoa. Wow.
I'm just gonna drop that right there for a second.
Wow. I mean, I like this though, and this is why I do outside the box, because we need to step outside these boxes that we have about how we see things and understand stuff from a different perspective, because you can't deny the many scriptures in the Bible that refer to physical health. Like you can't really deny that. And again, we like to compartmentalize things a lot of the times and separate them because it's easier. It's just a much easier way to process information when you can break it down into tiny bites. Right. But that does not mean that those things do not go back together. So if you need to separate them to understand them, you should understand them for the point of bringing them back into the bigger picture that they actually go in. And you can't deny that the connection there, because a lot of the times, even what you're saying, the way that you take care of yourself, it's also going to be a reflection of how you feel about yourself. And do you feel about yourself the way that you're supposed, what God says about who you are? So it can reveal your self-esteem. It can reveal deeper issues. I know a lot of people who have eating issues or eating problems comes from undealt with trauma from their past. And so you haven't really allowed God to get in there and heal you of that. So these things are all connected. And I really like how you're bringing it to the forefront that, like, this is usually something that's kind of in the back burner in a lot of people's lives. And I hate to say it, and I don't know if it's completely true, but I can say I see it a lot more with Blacks, because we do have that history of just really not eating healthy, really not having the resources. Like, if we're trying to survive and get our civil rights and take care of our families and we're dealing with poverty, we don't really have that much time to invest in exercising and learning about our bodies and what we're eating. And so a lot of those things are lacking in the Black community. I think it's catching up because times are changing, but it's definitely something we need to take a look at within ourselves and understand how it's connected to our faith and the overall ramifications it has over us as a whole, because whatever the physical condition of your body is definitely going to affect where you are spiritually. So I totally agree with that. Wow. Wow. Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, with that said, I mean, one of the things I've delved into over the last year and a half, really, is also, tackling some issues around environmental justice. This is to me, this is very much connected to what I'm doing with faith and health. I believe that we were created for three things. One, we were created for connection with God. We were created for connection with others, and we were created for connection with the earth. And one of the reasons why, we have issues, even in our communities, is that we're not fostering all those connections. One of the things I'm tackling is in certain urban communities, we have what we call food deserts, or down where I'm at, we call them food swamps. Some of them, but these are areas that don't have, they don't have the fresh fruits and vegetables, access to foods that are the most nutritious. And so, as someone who's promoting faith and health, it's I see it as part of my duty to fight for the community I'm in, so that they can have access to the things I'm talking about they used to have, that they shouldn't, and things of that nature. So part of what I'm doing is trying to make access. So, creating a community garden. I have planned for this coming year. Going to have some event going where I'm inviting some Black farmers to come to the neighborhood and some vendors or some communities and just have a fair where we just let people in the community get some fresh food and fruits and vegetables.
Yeah. Wow.
People who are growing it and producing it in the Black community.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. I really like how you talked about not having fried chicken dinners, this is so traditional in the Black community to do this in church. And it's like people don't really think 2 seconds about it's not healthy. Like it's really not healthy. And even recently, actually some years ago, I wrote an article, and I would like to have your opinion on this because I was also working on my own weight loss, and I wrote a blog post about, is it a sin to be fat? And so I talked about, some of the ways in which we don't really pay attention to our bodies and what we're eating, what we're doing, and things like that. And I didn't attempt to answer the question yes or no, but just to bring out some points that we usually don't think about when it comes to our spiritual understanding and our physical health. And so would you like to take a stab at answering that question?
Is it a sin to be fat?
But let me say obese, not fat, but obese.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, so first of all, I would say, everybody's not designed to be skinny.
Exactly. Yeah.
let me just say that off the bat, and I think that there are certain norms that have been set that are not really contextually truthful for people, BIPOC people. So
absolutely.
We're using these acronyms and stuff, but I'm just gonna say that it doesn't take into account some people who may have some broader shoulders, or some people who
different genetics
may have some good birthing hips, if you will. I just said that.
Right.
Woo! All right.
Yeah.
Everybody can't fit in certain jeans. I mean,
exactly. Exactly.
But with that being said, I think that there are ways to be healthy at different sizes.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's, I think you're correct in saying obese, right?
Yeah.
Because someone can be large but not necessarily unhealthy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what that would mean is, I would say if you are not actively participating in building your health, if you are not purposely doing things so you can be the healthiest you can be, if you are not concerned about that at all and eating whatever, then I would suggest that you are probably in violation of God's call for your body.
Yeah.
I just say it that way.
Yeah.
Because I think there's many scriptures where God calls us, and I mentioned this to you, prior to us, talking before this, one of my main things is I tell people, look, God has called us to be holy. Right? Be ye holy, for I am holy. Right? This is what the scriptures teach us. Be ye holy, for I am holy. And so, but when we search that out, we understand that that's not just talking about the spirit.
Yeah.
That word indicates that God is calling us to be well or being healthy in every area of our lives that we can. Right. So if you're just eating whatever, if you're not exercising, if you're not drinking enough water that you need, if you're not going to the doctor, if you're not taking care of your body, right? Yeah, listen, you can go as many prayer services as you want. you can go to every church service you want. You can listen to every church broadcast. You can pray 7 times, 10, 15 times a day. But check it out. If you're not doing that for your body, then you're sinning.
Yeah. No, I love this conversation. One of the things that I think, because it's very easy when you go into spiritual things to leave the natural stuff behind or put them in opposition with each other. And something that we talked about before we started recording is that they actually go together. And too many times people separate them.
Yeah.
Like even when it comes to logical and emotional, a
Yeah.
lot of times those things are separated, but the effectiveness of them is when they are put together. And so if you are a very, very spiritual person, but you don't take care of your body, how effective are you going to be in the natural when you can't climb a flight of stairs without, you know, getting lightheaded, you know? And so, and it's not to condemn. So I want to be sure that I'm not like trying to make people feel bad for not doing, but just to show how important it is and how it actually accentuates what you do in the flesh when you take care of your body. So
right. I mean, so here's the conversation you may have. Lord, I want to serve you. I give you my whole self. I want to serve you. But Lord, you know how that asthma be acting. Lord, you know how this gout be acting. Lord, you know how I'm dealing with this glaucoma. And God is telling you, I want to use you, but you got to stop eating all that pork chops.
Yeah. You
got to stop eating all them chitlins.
Yeah.
You got to stop eating all them carbs. You got to exercise. I'll use you, but you got to do these things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a context and a caveat there for us when we talk about ourselves being used by God, and that and that caveat is, can you be used by God? Somebody just said, "Ouch." Can you be used by God? Right? I mean, it's just like, for instance, if you go to school to learn certain things, right? You provide more for more tools for you to use in that area. If you have more tools for God to use, and your health should be one of those tools.
Yeah. Wow.
When you, let me put it this way: when you hear God saying, "Be holy," and you understand, you have an understanding that this is not just talking about your spirit, but you continue in doing these things. It's disobedience. It's just. It's disobedience, it is, and we have to make sure that, we're doing our best to follow God's call for us.
Yeah, and anything that God calls us to do, and it's not just for him to point the finger and be, power tripping. It's because it's what's best for you, you know? Right. And so he's not telling you, don't do this, don't do that, don't do that just to say it. He wants the best for you. He knows this is gonna benefit you. He knows it's gonna make you put you in a good positioning to do some of the things you want to do. And so it's any good suggestion, any parent, I'm losing my train of thought here, but he suggests anything that a good parent would suggest for their child. Right. He wants you to take care of yourself. And so, and he made the body that he gave you to take care of it. So he knows what he needs more than you know what he needs. So yeah. So let's go into a segue, because I feel like we can go into a lot of different areas with this conversation. Yeah. But let's talk about your practice. Can you talk a little bit about, the setup? So anybody that's watching, if they're saying, wow, I really like what Dr. Thomas is saying, how do I reach out to him? What kind of services can I expect from him? What do I need to do next? Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So it's it's pretty easy to get in contact with me. You can probably the best way to do it is go to the website www.wholekingdom.org.
And it is scrolling there at the bottom of the screen.
There you go. So. And just go there and just tap on make an appointment. You can make an appointment there. Once you make an appointment, I'll send you some information I need from you. I'll send you a form that I need to get some history information from you. And then, depending upon what kind of appointment you have, whether it's in person, whether it's virtual, I'll send you information on how we'll set that up virtually, or we'll set up the time to come and see you in person. What we'll do then is, ask you for, whatever pertinent information we need for your case. Could be blood work. It could be we need to get some sort of testing from you, and just do an analysis of, what your issue is, how we may make changes in your diet, how we may make changes with certain treatments that you're making, how we may make changes in terms of weaning you off of certain medications. And what I'll do is, whatever, I'll send you all the information that we talked about written down, and then we'll get, whatever supplements you need from that, and you'll have them sent straight to your house. And we'll check up, however often we need to do that to make sure that, you're meeting your holistic health goals.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Something that I was thinking before the before you said what you said about God knowing what's best for us,
Yeah.
and wanting what's best for us. We have a choice to not do it. Of course, that's with everything, and there are
Yeah.
consequences, and so those consequences don't go away because we're spiritual people. so
Right. Right. Right.
so I like how you're with everything you're saying as far as like the steps, and you can reach out. Say, can you talk a little bit about the type of clients you typically get? Because for it to be, because it's not just you talk about chronic conditions, but you're also talking about just overall wellness.
Yeah.
Like if you need to change your diet, if
Yeah.
you want to get off of some certain medications and things like that. So can you talk about what your typical client looks like?
Yeah, so my typical client looks like someone who generally is either tired of conventional um, protocols,
Okay.
or someone who is very much interested in um, figuring out how they can be healed using natural therapeutics. Mostly
Okay.
people who are dealing with certain chronic illnesses. It could be everything from obesity to high blood pressure, to just even the common cold. I mean, I don't see just adults. I see children as well.
Okay.
And what we'll offer is typically and I also get a lot of people who are trying to get off of certain medications.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and looking for a better way than something with so many side effects.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, so those are typically those three situations are the typical patient.
Okay. Okay. Wow. And so what kind of results do what kind of results have you seen with your services with your clients?
Yeah. I mean, I've had some tremendous results. I mean, looking at everything from pain management all the way up to dealing with, say, diabetes.
Mm.
For instance, I have some patient who is an older guy who used to jump out of airplanes when he was younger, and it's caught up with him, and I've got him with some natural treatments, and he's walking with no pain.
Okay.
Everything.
Wow.
For instance, I have a patient who was taking a large amounts of insulin because of her diabetes, and so we just changed her diet and got her on a certain regimen of herbs and amino acids, and within 2 weeks, her insulin levels were cut in half.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
it's a I mean, it's the way to go for particularly for chronic illnesses and just general wellness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, keep in mind, people, everybody got to understand our conventional system is a system that's set up to treat sick people instead
Yeah.
of keeping them well. What
Yeah.
I want to do is keep you well so that you won't have to come to me, but then
Right.
you tell somebody else. There you go.
Yeah. 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 Because it's priceless. Like a lot of people would like to have this type of information, but they don't have access to it, and they don't know what to take or what to do.
Yeah.
And they do just listen to their doctor, who's just there to treat sick people,
Yeah.
and then they end up in these kind of revolving situations. So I just think it's really a blessing that you're offering the information that a lot of people need to kind of make a pivot towards really just not just improving their physical health, but just their overall health. And then the faith aspect on top of it. Oh my goodness. It's like the full package. So yeah.
So one of the things I think I should say to you is that you need a naturopathic physician. I'm just going to tell you straight up. There's a lot of people who are out here who are saying that they're wellness folks, health, and I'm not saying that they're not, but one of the reasons why you need a naturopathic physician is because, unlike a nutritionist and even a herbalist, we have clinical training.
Oh, wow.
So when you go to your primary care physician and they do certain tests to figure certain things out of you, we do all that stuff as well.
Okay.
We can do diagnosis, and in some places even do some prescription as well. And so that is a major advantage to have for your healthcare practitioner to be able to has clinical training.
Wow. 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 I love it. I love it. All right. So is there anything else? Do you have anything else coming up? Any specials or anything else you want anybody that might be watching this to know about to kind of just encourage them to reach out, I guess?
Yeah. What I'm prepared to offer is if somebody wants to, get an appointment, if they mention your podcast, they'll get 20% off.
Okay. Wow. Well, thank you. I wasn't expecting that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, I really do feel like we can go into so many different conversations. Me personally, I'm getting older as well, and I've been being more mindful of my health and kind of taking more intentional steps to get myself in the shape and condition that I want to be in.
Yeah.
For a lot of Black people, we have diabetes that just happens to us more. Black people are more genetically predisposed to, am I using the right terminology, to diabetes
You can say that.
than other races? And so of course it's in my family, and I'm just trying to stay on top of stuff so all of this stuff is like right in my alley. It's kind of what the place that I'm in my life right now, and I really hope other people that are watching this are really in the same place that I am. Like you understand that you need to take better care of yourself, but you're not sure where to start. You're not sure what to do. You might have a chronic condition that you need help with. You might be on some medications that you feel like you want to get off of, or just have a more healthier overall health, better overall health in general, because as we're getting older, the price for these things are very, very high, very, very high.
Yeah.
And if you can get ahead of them, it's better. But I would like to ask you this before we wrap up, because even with this whole people kind of navigating more towards natural medicine, people are also becoming more aware of mental health now than they were before, especially even in the church. Like they're asking questions now in the church that was not asked 30, 40 years ago about mental health. If you did have any mental health issues, it was very easily labeled as a demonic thing. And now people are actually taking steps towards trying to understand ourselves on that level. So as a doctor, especially someone that's really into the natural side, how do you feel that mental health kind of plays into all of this?
Oh yeah. So mental health is certainly a huge aspect, especially right now. So when I talk about faith and health, I'm not just talking about physical medicine in a sense, but whatever health is needed. So mental health is definitely something that I advocate. I mean, I do some counseling, but I certainly would recommend for anybody. And for anyone, but I want to speak specifically for those Christians who are listening, who want to say, hey, if it ain't a spiritual solution, then I don't want it. Well, listen, I need you to understand that that God provides for us different tools for us to use. In fact, the witness of Scripture is that those tools were given to us for healing. And so if you really want to be in the will of God in that sense, take advantage of the tools that's already given.
Exactly.
Right. I always tell people, every sane person that I know has a therapist. Listen, I'm not saying for you to stop praying. I'm not saying that Jesus can't fix it. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that when you do pray, I think the Lord is telling you to go to your therapist too. Right.
Absolutely.
Use that tool. It's a part of who we are, right? Just like you listen to, preaching and things for your spiritual needs in that sense. Well, that preaching is also is also speaking to your need for physical and mental health as well. And, so scriptures tell us that we ought to love God with our mind, our heart, with our heart, our soul, and our mind, our strength. Some versions use different words, but with our mind, it's part of that. So if in order for you to really love God with your mind, you got to try to make that mind as healthy as possible.
Right. Oh, I love it. I love it. I feel like we can really get into some juicy conversations here. I love it. But we're going to go ahead and wrap up. We kind of a little bit past the time, which I'm not surprised that we went past the time. But I really do appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge and insight. And I really hope anybody that's watching, please reach out and get some help. Like I say this all the time, and I mean it every time I say it. We need all the help we can get. Life is not easy. whether it's mental, spiritual, physical, food, body, whatever. We need all the help that we can get. So is there any last things you want to say, doctor, before we wrap up?
Yeah. So let me just say this, and I guess part of it's a shameless plug. One of the best things you can do right now for your health is to boost your immune system. Don't let anybody tell you that boosting your immune system is going to make you more vulnerable to disease, which I've heard people say this, which I don't understand, but I've heard people say this. Listen, boost your immune system is one of the best things you can do for your health. In fact, if you're interested, I do have my own line of immune system boosters that you can purchase from this website that's been on there. You go there to the store, you can purchase those. They're one of the best immune boosters that you could buy. Some of the best herbs and vitamins that are going to keep your immune system humming like I don't know what.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, I just want to put that out there. Would love to hear from you. Love to help you meet your holistic health solutions.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. And in this COVID area, who would argue with boosting your immune system?
Right.
like we definitely need that. All right. So thank you so much, you all. You have the website below, scrolling above the bottom of the screen. Sorry about that. And make sure you reach out, and thanks for watching. Be blessed.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.
Thank you.